One of the most liberating things for me was when I began to understand that I can change my mind. And that's fantastic because I think a lot of times we forget that we have this freedom and maybe even a responsibility with that freedom to change our minds because sometimes we're wrong about things. Sometimes even our opinions about things can change. But if we lock ourselves in and refuse to change our minds or even deny ourselves of that privilege and that opportunity to change our minds, then life can actually become pretty miserable and often pretty stale. I think about it in terms even of like driving a car. Like I used to get so upset and so frustrated if I missed an exit, or if I missed a turn, and I'd be like, oh, like the whole world was ending, because I didn't really understand that I can just go to the next exit, turn around, and go back. And all it's cost me is a little bit of time, a little bit of energy, but I was wasting so much energy being upset about missing it to begin with. Now, a really foolish thing would be to stay upset and continue to be frustrated, ruin the whole day, or maybe a lot of other people's days, and that's foolish. But even worse than that would be to not turn around, to not take the exit, to not go back to where I wanted to be, and just keep going in the wrong direction. How dumb would that be? And a lot of times that's what we do as people. We just keep going in a direction we don't really want to go because that's maybe the direction we've always gone. And yet with God, there is an opportunity and a freedom and a responsibility to change our minds. One of the things that can make this difficult is if maybe we grew up in a family dynamic that thought a certain way. And our families were good, and we loved our families, and we respected them. And we think that maybe because our families thought a certain way, we need to continue to think that same way. Well, what if our families were wrong? I kind of think of it like this, like, well, what if your father owned a butcher shop and your father's father owned a butcher shop, and you come from a family of butchers, and this butcher shop has been in the family for a long time, and your grandfather and your great-grandfather and your father were all known as honest, upstanding businessmen. And they ran an honest, upstanding butcher shop. But when you took over the butcher shop, you found out that the scales were just a little off, and off in favor of the shop, not the customer. Now, you'd probably assume your father didn't know, and your grandfather didn't know, and your great-grandfather didn't know. I mean, after all, you have respect for them, and they had integrity, and you believed in them. But now you do know. So what do? Do you fix the problem, or do you continue to use the same scale and cheat your customers? Well, here's an opportunity to do something different, to make a change. And I know in that illustration, hopefully it sounds easy to go, oh, yeah, we just need to get a new scale in there. We need to do things different. We need to make it right. But oftentimes that's hard. These things are handed down to us, and we can just continue in a mindset that isn't really what God has for us. And so you have an opportunity to change your mind. And changing our minds doesn't mean that we're not honoring those who have gone before us. And so I would say, put everything on the table. Lay it out there before God and say, God, what do you have for me? And what are some ways that you want me to change my mind and think differently? Because you have the opportunity to maybe take the next exit, turn around, go back, and proceed in the direction that you were created for and that God wants for you. And that is what's going to make the world a better place. Let's go.